quick recap of this month. It started out quite strong. I have been trying to transfer all of my planning from my novel planning notebook, see the previous videos, onto digital, so onto a spreadsheet, which I did. I've transferred all of the plot beats onto a spreadsheet now, and I've been trying from that to work out all of the chapters, the chapter breakdowns that I've been trying to do. And this is what I've come up with. First things first, I had to come up with a timeline. Yes, when you print out spreadsheets, you have to sellotape them together and cut them out to make them like that. It's a whole thing. But this is the bigger spreadsheet overall of the plots, with the kind of a breakdown of the chapters, kind of like an overlap. Technically, I do have this as a starting point if I wanted to start NaNoWriMo tomorrow, but I would prefer to get a bit more details down, i.e. locations, dates, spreadsheets, bullet points for every chapter, very specifically onto Scrivener, onto those files, and that's taking a while. I've made a start, but this is what I'm using as a basis. So it starts over here with the basics of the Say the Cat, and it's also got some gaps in for where the 3-act structure plot beats go in, because they overlap quite nicely. Then we move on to our first main character and our second main character. And as I'm going through, specifically for the chapter by chapter breakdowns, I'm finding that the 3-act structure is working very well. Now, like I said, I started incredibly strong, and I need to go back to my series Bible here to get some details, specifics on different characters, their background, the layout of the world, just before I make a start. I already know I have some character names I'm going to have to make up as I go through, but being dual POV is really taking me by surprise. But anyway, on with that. It's that time again where I'm going to write up all the time I've worked this month with gold stars. Now, like I said, I started quite strongly this month. I'm just looking over here towards a spreadsheet that I've got. There we go, where I've tracked all the counts from my sessions. So normally I work in bouts of 15-20 minutes. Sometimes I have a giant run of activity in a day, but even then it's kind of broken down maybe up into half-hour chunks. But most of the time I work in 15 to 20 minute sessions. And my goal this month was to finish all of this chapter outline in ready for starting NaNoWriMo. So I had set myself a goal for every 20 minutes worked, I would give myself 1 gold star, and as usual that for every 10 gold stars I would earn myself the right to buy myself a brand new book at the end of the month. I did fairly strong looking down at this with some 15, 20 minutes, 20 minute sessions. Those are quite usual for me. Then I have a giant burst of activity when I really get to grips with my plot and what's happening, especially between the two. Finishing my timeline really allowed me to have a very, very big burst of creation. I could then fit everything in logically around moon phases. My story involves werewolves. I have characters who are finishing up final school exams as well, and trying to fit all that in with the school seasons was quite logistically tough to continue from book 1. I have a bunch of queries out at the moment, still waiting to come back, and at this point it's a bit of a waiting game, but I have also tentatively, I say tentatively, been looking at costs for self-publishing. Now the problem potentially with that is if I want to self-publish, I'm going to want to do it well, and I mean like very, very well, to a very high standard, to the point where you can pick up a book and not realise it's self-published at all. having there be no kind of gatekeepers to self-publishing is quite freeing. And I think for something like mine, which is genre fusing essentially, with multiple genres where I think traditional publishing would struggle to market that, I think it would find a home a lot more easily in indie. But at the same time, with there being no gatekeepers, you can fall foul to very quickly putting something out there that might be slightly inferior, instead of if you'd spent a bit longer on it and maybe invested a bit more in a cover designer, things like that. So if I were going to go down the self-publishing route, I would want to do that and do that well. Also, accessibility. I am very, very big about accessibility. So at the very least, I would be looking into Google's version of AI voiced audiobooks. I tend to listen to fan fictions, and I listen to audiobooks. It's one of my primary ways of digesting content is through audio. I think Google's ability to now create audiobooks is absolutely fantastic. For people like me who have not a lot of energy going on, but also other than that, as well as the regular, paper copy, I would also be looking specifically to create a large print book. I think the large print is massively underserved. Yes, you can, say to anyone, okay, well, here's an ebook, you can change the font size of that, but it's not the same as just being able to then have access to an actual physical book. So I've been looking into that as well. Most places, like for example on Fiverr and things where you can hire someone to do those things, it's not necessarily their first consideration, because large print books, the text tends to take up more space on the page, the covers in the dimensions are going to be slightly larger. So that's something specific that I would have to look into. But if I were going to go indie, then if I'm going to have all that control, I would do that all the way. Accessibility all the way. For as many options as I could. And that would be costly. But that's enough about book one. I'm at the point now of making a choice. At the beginning of the year, I said my goal was to finish book one and to write the outline for book two, so that if ever book one would be picked up by an agent, then I would have book two ready to start writing if there was interest. I'm at the point now where I still don't have that interest. But nevertheless, I think it's good to march on with book two. I think having a backlog is a very, very good thing. So, how did I get on? Let's start filling this out. So, we have the 1st of October, which was a Saturday, and nothing. And number 2, let's see, the Sunday I did 15 minutes, then 15, 20, and then I took the equivalent of a midweek weekend off. I can't exactly remember what was happening on some of these days, but it's fine. I don't think you have to work on your novel every day, as long as you are kind of thinking about it. As long as you don't give up, then you keep coming back to it, then a hiatus is perfectly fine for any reason. There might have been any number of reasons. I think some of those were actually days where there were hospital trips involved. That's making sense. I remember there was a run where I had to spend like a weekend in the accident and emergency ward with a household member. That episode unfortunately has continued on, and now it's in a bit of a tough position, but we'll get to that. I think that this will speak for itself. My timings. So it's 20, 40, 0. Then we get to 30, 15, 45, 80, yeah, and this is where I really managed to break through the blockade. Post-editing Adara here. I have just remembered what that giant 420-minute epic breakthrough saga was. I have, on and off over the years, been associated with a fantastic charity called Skimstone Arts, and they approached me for a piece of spoken word. Now, before I did novels, I primarily wrote spoken word pieces and poetry, sometimes song lyrics, and I was asked, along with Mr. Spence, to create a piece for a very special member of their charity who I've known for a fair few years, probably 10, 11 years by now, who is going off to do his own stuff, kind of flying the coop, as it were. And he's called Magpie, and he was a good friend, a very good friend, and he still is. And together, me and Mr. Spence spent our time that day creating a piece for him called COVID's Migration. This might be autistic hyperfocus, I don't know. 420 minutes worked in total. I did work myself quite into the ground. That kind of carried on into the next day, 45 minutes of work. That was a fundamentally epic weekend. And then you can tell because the day after I crashed and I only managed 13. So that's how my energy levels. I didn't manage my spoons being a metaphor for units of energy. After that, 20, 45, 30, and that brings us up to the 21st of October. And then the rest I've done nothing. Yep, absolutely nothing in terms of plotting. Reason for that? Mainly medical. Not just me, however. Yes, I had one or two of my own appointments, but mainly household members, and trying to keep up with that, and in terms of having home visits every day to the point of now where said member is in hospital. And I've been trying to coordinate a lot of my energy on things like trying to make basic meals, self-care, looking after the house. I'm rebuilding from scratch, so that's where I'm at. I did not get all of my chapter breakdowns plotted as I wanted to. I had hoped to start NaNoWriMo. I know some people would take my spreadsheet and just run with that. I think I need to be more prepared, so future me can sit down in a writing session and just say, okay, this is the chapter that I need to write. This is the goal. Specifically, I need to hit these bullet points and they're done. They know where they are, they know what they're doing, and that's it. I think I need that groundwork, so I'm going to need more time. I'm hoping to jump into the NaNoWriMo spirit with people, quite honestly still. So I don't know when I will get around to writing. It may be midway through the month. It honestly depends on how well I'm going to manage with housework and my energy. I'm restarting my goal of taking a proper 10-minute, maybe even lie down rest for 10 minutes every hour, just to try to manage that energy a bit more and the kind of uptick of that and that extra energy that I'm spending. So my physiotherapy is now on hold as well until I can try to build that back up. But now's the favourite time. For every 20 minutes I get a gold star. And onward with the celebrations of what I am doing and what I can do and where I can push myself. I know for some people these things are quite redundant, things like little gold stars, but for me it is so rewarding to look back and see what I have actually done. So I'm going to give myself the gold stars. And then at the end I'm going to count up my total for how much I've done and see how many stars I've got. And hypothetically, using my old system how many books I would have. Counting some stars left over from last month as well, of course. Speaking of, I'm not sure what system I'm going to use for counting NaNoWriMo or November this month, because usually for things like my first draft, I would change my goal kind of from, well, normally I would set myself a word-based goal for something like drafting. But after that, it's for things like editing, I've ended up just moving it to time-based because it's more quality-based, really, as you're going. Right, now let's try to count. I'm going to need to concentrate. So that's 20, 40, 60, 420. And that finishes the page. And moving on. Get a new sheet. 20, 40, 20, 20, 20, 40, 20. And there we go, that brings us up to that. Overall though, for the sheer amount of work I did before I crashed, that's quite something. So time to count the stars based off of some left over from last month. So we have 45 stars. 45 stars. That's the equivalent of 4 new books to me. 4 new books to me. And now let's count it. Let's add all this up. Equals sum. Just getting my spreadsheet to do this maths for me. That is a total of 893 minutes, which is divided by 6. Nope. Get your maths right. Divided by 60. Just under 14 hours. I'm quite happy with that. I think I'm going to have to be flexible with next month. Well, for NaNoWriMo. I know I'm not going to start it. It may for me just be a plotting month if I get the energy to even return to that. So I'm going to start with continuing my time-based goal because I am still planning. Originally I'd set myself a goal of, okay, if I can plot out 3 chapters every day, the specifics of them, then I will be done in time for NaNoWriMo. And that crashed and burned as the medical emergencies piled up. And then my energy is just had to be completely directed, first of all, from trying again to get myself up and running with basics. Basics of life. But here we are and back again. Hydration drink before I continue. So we're looking forward. I don't know how this is going to play out, so I'm going to give myself some flexibility. I am going to say that I am going to set myself my time-based tariff of 20 minutes worked is 1 gold star. After that, if I get to the point though where I think that I can start writing, then I will. And I will be putting in a system of 1 star for every 500 words written. I know NaNoWriMo was 1,677, and even at that pace, I likely wouldn't be able to finish my novel. My novel's projected around 80,000, NaNoWriMo is 50. Hopefully though, for a bit of community and a bit of outreach, I can link with other people online again, reach out, join live streams, even if I'm there for plotting, just to get me back in the zone. I think that'll be helpful, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing some returning characters, learning about these new main characters, seeing where they go, what their voices are going to turn out like, and I think that's positive. How do I end this? Sorry, I'm running on between like 5 to 6 hours sleep for like since Wednesday, recording this on, what day is it? I'm a bit all over the place right now, please excuse me, but that's fine. I'm getting used to it. Those hourly rests will help, and I'm building myself up from negative spoons again, but I think I'll get there as I continue to write my story, one day or perhaps even 1 hour at a time.